Okay, I'm going to wait until 5 p.m. or around 5:05 to start because I know some people they come like a couple minutes late, but that's okay. Okay. Right, so for the couple people who are here right now, just let me know if you can hear me. Oh yeah, just type in the chat if you can hear. Just want to make sure the audio is okay. Mm, okay, so it's currently 4:55, so I'll just okay, so alright, so the audio is okay. Alright, that's good, that's good. Um so what I'll do in the meantime is I'll just tell you guys what we'll be going over today before class actually starts. So last time you may or may not have remembered that we were going over some string methods in Java, right? And so with using these methods, we were able to like search for characters, you know, basically like cut strings into different parts. And one of the things we did was we used a loop to actually alternate between every character in the string and make it so that make each character alternate between uppercase and lowercase character. So that was one of the applications you used of the loop on the strings yesterday. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be delving more into classes because up until this point we've went over some of the basics, right? Like declaring variables, creating loops, and using methods and on these data types, right? And oh yeah, we've also went over conditionals too. But today what we're going to be doing is basically creating our own objects. If you recall last time at the I think it was in this first or second class, I explained to you guys the premise of what an object was, right? And so objects are essentially, like reward objects, they store data in them, right? And so what you may not have already known is that we've already been working with some objects. For instance, an integer. Integer is an object. A string is an object. And we also worked with uh, doubles, right? And so these are some data types, and they're also objects. I missed so much. Oh yeah, no worry. I won't go that fast today. So what I'll do essentially is, well, yeah, what I'll do is I'll go a bit slower today, If you want, I can, if you guys are interested, I can do a quick review of last class. And in your own time, you guys can, check out the previous streams and rewatch them to get a better understanding. And so, also try to implement these things, like try practicing it in your own time too, because really, that's what's going to help you the most. That's going to help you retain the information, and also it's a lot easier to learn how to do something when you're actually doing it instead of just listening, right? And watching someone else do it. Although that is a very important aspect, it's equally as important, if not more, for you guys to also attempt some things in your own time, right? That's what I'm here for. I teach you guys, and if you guys attempt something in your own time and have any issues, then you guys can come to me and I can resolve your issue. It doesn't even have to be in classwork. It could be like your own work you do in your own time. Like you wanna make your own project and you're having trouble with something, you can ask me. Alright, so it's currently 4:59. We don't have that many people right now, so we'll just wait another 5 more minutes and then we will officially start, okay? Alright, it's 5 p.m. I'll just wait 5 more minutes to give some people time to come in. In the meantime, yeah, so I briefly went over what we're going to do today. Yeah, if you guys have any questions on stuff we did in the past, I recommend you rewatch the stream as always. Never any harm in like reviewing material, right? It just makes it so that you remember it and know how to use it. Yeah, the chat is in real time, but I think there's some lapse between it, so yeah, that's gonna be a bit hard to deal with, but no, it's whatever, I'll probably just like if you ask a question, it'll take me like 10 seconds to respond to it, so yeah, that's probably all. Alright, I'm going to wait 3 more minutes and then we will officially begin, guys, okay? Yeah, I might as well just start right now, honestly. It's 5:03. So, yeah. Alright, let's begin. Alright, hello everyone. And I forget how many classes we had so far, but that doesn't matter. So, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating classes and understanding objects. Now, we've actually already kind of worked with objects before, and you guys probably might have not even known. So if you recall back to yesterday when we used the scanner class, we had to create a scanner object, and then using that scanner object, we were able to take in the user input from over here. So whenever anyone typed anything in the console, it would register that and then we would use it to store that value inside the variable, and then we do stuff with that value. Well, today we're actually going to be looking into classes and creating our own objects. So just to let you guys know what a class is. So basically in Java we have things called objects. And essentially objects store values, right? So like in real life you would have let's say we have a pillow object, right? And so the object would have different attributes. For instance, a pillow may have a certain color, right? It may be a red pillow, it might be a blue pillow, it might be a white pillow. And it might have also some value attributed to what it's made out of, right? What specifically is the pillow made out of, right? And so in Java and in programming, we also have objects too, right? Other than basic data types like ints, doubles, and strings, we also have the ability to create our own objects. And so using these objects, we can implement them into our code, right? Because you can't really there's an extent to what you can do with basic data types, right? But if you want to make an actual object, then you can create different attributes surrounding the object, right? And then you can do things to those attributes, like alter them or add things to them, right? So like, I'll use another example. So say you have a car, right? And that car has different attributes. For instance, the weight, the size, volume, and like the wheel, something about the wheels, like its tires, right? So and color, right? There's a whole lot of attributes basically, which we can attribute to an object, right? And when creating an object, we're basically just making something, we're creating something and then listing its attributes, right? And so now we know what an object is. It's time for us to understand what a class is. And so a class, simply put, is like the blueprint to create the object, right? Don't you have the class, right? And then inside that class, you can create an object, and then add different things which you can do to the object. So basically, a class tells you basically how to make the object and what you can do to the object. Right. So if you guys have any questions at any time, if you guys are okay for now, feel free to type in the chat, ask me to pause, and I can help you with that. That's some extra clarification, right? But okay, we just talked about briefly what a class is right now, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create our own class. Now, what I want you guys to do is to go to this little button here, open files, and press add file. Once you do that, I want you guys to create a class. See over here how I created a class called rectangle. I want you guys to have an uppercase R and then type in rectangle, because the first class we're going to create is going to be a rectangle class, right? And then end it with .java, and this will essentially create a rectangle class right here. Oh, nope. Okay, so what you will be presented is a completely blank file, right? Now you might be wondering, what do we do here? So normally in Python, what you would be able to do is you could like just immediately write use some functions and do things, right? Create variables, but you can't in Java. right? So what you want to do first is, because we're creating a rectangle object in this rectangle class, we first want to tell them we want to create a class. So what we'll do is first use the class keyword to create a class, and then right afterwards the name of our class. And it's really important that the name of your class has to be the same as the file name right here. So if I created a file called rectangle.java and inside I wanted to create a class, I'd have to call it a rectangle. Okay. Alright, so once we have the rectangle, get these curly braces, open close curly braces, and then inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to declare some attributes of the rectangle. So let's think. What are some things that rectangles have, right? Well, first of all, a rectangle has a width, and a rectangle also has a length. So what we can do is we can start off and create values which are associated with those things. So what we'll do is create a variable called width, and then we'll create a variable called length. And so notice how I didn't give these a value yet, right? What I'm basically doing is I just called them, but I didn't actually give them a value. The value is still null. That's because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a method which will actually give those attributes actual values, right? But you have to always declare what attributes of that object you want to have, right, in your class, right? If I didn't have these, then I wouldn't be able to call my width or call my length. So it's very important that you state the attributes of your object. So we have width, and so we can probably think of some other things alongside, right? For instance, what are some other things rectangles have? Maybe you have like the rectangle, and the rectangle is a certain color. In that case, you would probably create a string and name it color, and that would basically hold that color that the rectangle is. Alright. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll create the method that will make the object. Create method that will make object. So in this case, remember our object is a rectangle, and we have the attributes of a rectangle right here. Now what we'll actually do is create a method to make the rectangle. So what I'll do right here is declare rectangle and then brackets, and then I will take in two parameters. And so these parameters, when you create an object, will basically I'll tell the rectangle the width and length, and then it will create a rectangle with those attributes. So I'll say try a rectangle. So I'll take in an integer called w, an integer called l, and then I'll say that the width will be equal to w, and then the length will be equal to l. So what this does right here is this is the constructor of the class. And so a constructor is the method that will create your object. And so a constructor will, most of the time, will take in parameters in order to create an object, right? Because if you tell a rectangle to create nothing, if you tell a rectangle, if you tell create a rectangle, but you give a string which says like hi, well then it's how you're going to create a rectangle with attributes how you're going to create a rectangle when you don't have the length or width, right? That's just silly, which is why when we create the parameters of the constructor, we specify that we want the length and width. Right, so then we take in these two integer values which will represent the length and width. So we have width, which is w, and length, which is l. And so after we take those parameters, what we do is that we look, okay, so we have our integer w, right? We want that to become our width. So we go to the width attribute and we tell the rectangle maker to create a rectangle with a width that has a value of w. And we want to also have a length that is a value of L. And so what that does is that it will create a rectangle with these values, with width as W and length as L. So I'm going to give you guys some time to try that out. Once you're done with that, type in the chat that you're done. Okay, so if you're done this code up until now, just type it in the chat and then I'll move on. And so in the meantime, while you guys are writing this, I want you guys to think of some methods that you could use on a rectangle. For instance, like you may want, right? Rectangles have an area. So what you could do is you could ask, like, you could find a way to get the area attribute, right? What are some other things typically associated with rectangles? I'm going to give you guys, okay, so we have one person who's done. Alright, so I'll just move on for now if no one else has any questions. So we've created our rectangle class and the, what's it called? A constructor for a rectangle object. So now it's actually time for us to create our rectangle object. So to create our rectangle, what we do is we go here, we go to our class rectangle and say, alright, we want to create a rectangle object. So in order to create an object, you first have to specify the type of object. In our case, we're creating a rectangle object, so we say rectangle. And then afterwards, we tell the name of the rectangle. So let's say our rectangle is called rect. So rect will be equal to a new rectangle. So when you're creating a class, you also always have to use the new keyword. That basically lets it know that you want to create a new object. So create a new object right now, new rectangle. And so inside here, we're going to put in our parameters. So what does the rectangle take in? The rectangle takes in int w and int l. So w is width and, well, yeah, I want you guys to write it because part of it, there's no point in listening to, or watching a coding tutorial if you're not going to write it yourself. Because if you write it, first of all, you actually know how to use it, right? You actually know how to use the concepts. And second, right, if you don't write it, then it doesn't make sense because the coding is a very hands-on activity, which lots of it comes down to practice. So it's really important that you have to write code on a regular basis, like once or twice a week at least, so that you can, improve and get better. Otherwise, it becomes, harder to learn. But okay, so we have our int w and int l, right? So it's going to take in an int and another int and turn those two ints into the width and length. So okay, now we know what parameters. Oh, right here, yeah. So now we take in the parameters. So we're going to create, we're going to say 6 and 5. And so this will create a rectangle with a width of 6 and a length of 5. So what if we want to get the length of a rectangle? Well, what we can do is we can say rect dot width, because as you see here, we declared the values length and width. So if we want to call them, what we can easily just do after we've created our object is write the name of the object. So in our case, we have a rectangle called rect. So what we do is we call rect and say dot width in order to get the width. So what this will do is it will print out the width, which in our case is 6. As you can see, it gave us the value 6. And so why did it give us 6? Well, our first variable that we've taken, our first parameter that we've taken is an integer called w, and we store that as width. And the second one is L, we store that as length. And because we wanted to get width, we will take in this w variable, which becomes the width. And so then it would print out this width. Alright. So now we have a somewhat basic understanding of what a class is, what an object is, and how we can use objects, right? And create objects. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to be adding some things to our rectangle. We're going to be pimping it out. We're going to be adding some methods. So we talked earlier how rectangles have an area, right? And so what if you want to get the area of a rectangle? Well, one thing you could do is you could just go to your main class and then just type in rect.width times rect.length, right? Oh, that's too long, right? What we can do is we can create a method, and we have a method here that will give us the area. And so instead of having to write all that code, what we can just do is call this method in one line, and it will give us the same value, right? It'll essentially save us a lot of time. And so let's create our method. So when you create a method, you want to specify the data type you want to return. So in our case, we want to return an int value for the area. So what we'll do is we'll specify int, and then afterwards we'll write get area. So get area is our method name, and it will return an int value. And what it will do is it will basically return width times length. Alright, so now let's try that out. So let's try system.out.println rect.get area. If you guys have any questions at any time, type it in the chat, right? Because there's no shame in asking a question, right? If you don't understand something, then it becomes really hard to learn past that. Alright, so let's check in. One error. Get area. Oh, my bad, sorry. Forgot to have these. Now it will work. Okay, it's just taking a while, but it won't run. Anytime now. Anytime at all. Okay, good, fun. See, now it returned our area, which is 30. And so if you guys haven't learned the math already, the objects have an area to them, right? And so area is for a rectangle, at least, is expressed as the length times width. And so in order to get that value, what we did was we just basically said return width times length, which is how you get the area of a rectangle. And so what are some other things that we could add here? Well, rectangles have area, but they also have a perimeter, which is the length around the rectangle. So what we can do is we can now create a method that will give us the perimeter of a rectangle. So what we'll name it is get perimeter, and it will return. Well, let's use our math right now. So it's length times width times 2, right? So 2 times length plus width. So this will give us our perimeter. So instead of get area, we'll use get perimeter. Now let's see what happens. Okay, slow down. Yeah. Do you need 2 programs? Okay, so depending on what text editor you're using, because most of you guys are beginners, I assume that the REPL is your default text editor, right? So I want you guys to create 2 individual files, right? So we have our first file, which is called our main file. Every single project needs this. We also have our rectangle.java file, which contains our rectangle class and the rectangle object. So yeah, you have to have your class rectangle in a separate file. So if you haven't already created your rectangle class or your rectangle file, I recommend you do that. So I can wait a couple minutes, or I can also just type it in the chat for you and you can copy it. Too long? Alright, that's fine. You can do this. Alright. Fine. Wait, I need that. Okay, let's see if this works. Copy. I'll paste it into the chat now. It's still too long, huh? Okay, so I'll just get rid of the get perimeter method, and you'll have to write that yourself. But you can just copy the constructor and the get area method. And if I'm going too fast, let me know, and it help specifically if you told me like what concept, what area you don't understand. That way I can kind of clarify it. But right now I don't know if you have any trouble understanding it. So if you do have any trouble understanding any part of it, just let me know, okay? So Tinkle Finkle, if you're done with that, let me know in the chat by typing done, okay? Alright, let me just rewrite my get perimeter method. Alright, so we've created our get parameter and get area methods, right? So what do we do now? Well, we've basically kind of exhausted all of the possible things we can do. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to create a car. Next, we're going to create a car. So we're going to create a class called car.java. So specify that you're creating a class, name of the class, such object, and some attributes regarding the car. So what are some attributes of a car that we can give it? Well, off the top of my head, I can think of the name. So we can create a string name. And what are some other things? If you think of anything, type in the chat and I'll also include it in the class. But in the meantime, I'll just add some things that I think a car should have. So the string name, let's say the mass of the car. So we'll create mass. Oh, sorry, int mass. There's also fuel, right? Cars need fuel in order to run. Whether it's electric or gas, they need some sort of energy. So we'll write int fuel. And now, what are some other things we can have here? So other than mass, fuel, I want to get your guys' input. Oh, speed. Yes, speed. So we can get the int speed. Color. All right, nice. So string color. Handling. I don't know how we'll be able to implement handling as. I don't know if I can measure handling in an int value. I guess like the friction of it, but we're not going to be creating a full-on video game here. We're just going to create a basic car. So yeah, I think this for now is enough for our wheels. Yeah, so we can well, when we're creating a car, yeah, we can have the number of wheels, but we're going to assume that the car automatically has 4 wheels, as you know most cars do. I don't think there are cars with 5 wheels on them. So we'll just leave it at 4 wheels for now. And so we've pretty much listed, well, I've listed all the attributes I want in my class. But if you guys want any more attributes, you guys can list them right here. Too many messages, but I just typed in enter. Okay. Now let's create the constructor. So we're going to create a car. And so this car will take in mass, the amount of fuel, and the speed, and the color. Oh, also the name. So now we'll just say that name is equal to n, mass is equal to m, fuel is equal to f, and speed is equal to s, and our color is equal to c. Alright, so now we have that. Let's create some methods. For instance, what if we want what are some methods we could do to alter the car? What we can do is, we can create a starting point for the car. So basically, how we say we have I'll create. So yeah, what I want to create is a variable called distance, which is basically the distance away from a certain starting point. Wait, hold on. Reload. Okay. Alright, it didn't save. Alright, well, that's okay. We'll just rewrite it. So car. Then we'll put in our parameters. So what I was saying before is that I want to create a variable called distance, which basically just measure the distance the car is from something. So think of like a number line. Maybe in school you guys talked about number lines, but you have like different starting points. For instance, this could be 0, this could be 1, right? And so then we could have a method that would move the car forward or backward. And so we need to have the distance for that first of all. So go to our car and then create an int called distance. So let's take in our string n, our int m, our int f, our int s, our string c, and our int d. Yeah, we're not gonna be making a full-on video game here, yeah. Area of the car? Well, unless your car is a rectangular box like in Minecraft, then I don't know if it's going to be easy to calculate the area. Here, so we'll say that the name is equal to n, that the field is equal to f, that the speed is equal to s, that the color is equal to c, and that the distance is equal to d. So distance will basically be the starting point of the car. Why is this like it? Like that? The pull is so weird. That's why I use an actual text editor normally. If you guys don't already have it, I recommend you guys download the get the Java development kit off the Oracle website, and also get a text editor like maybe VS Code or Eclipse. Alright, we created our car. And so let's add some methods to this car. First of all, let's say we want the car to go forward. Now let's create a method called actually go forward. So forward. So in this we're going to take in, so basically how far do you want to go forward? Let's say we want to go forward 5. This would essentially take so let's think about this first. Let's think about it on a number line when a car goes forward. Say we have this box and this is our starting point, right? If we want to go forward 1, then we would move the car. How do I detach this? Yeah, we will essentially move it. Okay, so we start at 0, we go forward 1, we go here, and we go forward another 1 and another 1, right? So what we can do is we can take our starting point, our distance from our starting point, and then basically add 1 to it every single time, and that would give us our distance. So move forward. Alright. Let me just see if you guys. Okay, alright. So no one has any questions. That's good. We'll keep going. So int go forward, and so we'll create a new variable, and we'll call this int. And now we'll just say, well, actually no, this isn't going to return anything, rather it's going to change something. So we'll basically say static void go forward. And so what this means is that it's not actually returning a value, it's just going to change a value. So let's say go forward and we'll say distance is equal to this plus int n. It's taking a long time to boot. So yeah, so this won't actually give us a new value. This is just telling the car to like move further. So we're expressing this with the distance, so basic distance from the starting point. If we want to move forward, alright, then we take in the amount we want to move forward and then add it to our distance, which means we're now that much farther away. So I guess, yeah, we could specify the amount of meters you want to go forward. Nice. So now we'll create another method called go backwards. So we'll call it go backwards. So we'll also take an int. What is this? And we'll say the distance is equal to distance distance minus n static int. Okay, so we have that. Alright, so public, we'll just say no, we don't use the static keyword, we'll just use void. Void basically, void will just like change the value, it won't actually create anything. Distance. Okay, and so this will change the distance of the car traveled. So say we start at 0 and we tell it to go forward 5, then it would go distance plus 5, so 0 plus 5, and it will go forward 5 meters. And then our total distance will be 5 meters. Alright, say we want to have another method. So we have go forward, go backwards. Oh, we should also, because we also have the field, we should say that our field will change too. So every time we go forward 1, our field will change. So field is equal to field minus n. The rep pool is not a good text editor, which is why I advise you guys to get something like VS Code or Eclipse. Alright, error was so delayed and I didn't even have an error. Alright, so now we have our go forward and go backwards method, which will basically tell the car to go add distance to the car and subtract field whenever we move. Alright, let's say we also wanted to change the mass. So to be honest, color and mass don't really do anything. They just add something to the car, but alright. It will help us visualize it more. So what we'll do right now is we'll create our car. So car, and we'll name this car my car is equal to a new car. And what do we need to have in the parameters again? Let's check. We have to have the name. Let's call it name cool car. That's the name of the car. We have the amount of fuel it has. Let's say it has 500. Then let's say 500. Then we also have the speed. So let's say the speed is 3. Well, the speed doesn't matter in our case because we didn't have the variable time here. So color, let's say color is red. And then distance, let's say it starts at 0, the distance. And so I'll give you guys some time to copy that down right now, okay? Copy down these two methods. No. Yeah, and once you're done, just type done in the chat as always. I'll be back real quick. Charger. Since no one said done in the chat yet, I'm just going to assume that you guys haven't finished yet. So I'll give you guys give you guys until like 4:50 to finish. I think that should be enough time, more than enough. Astar Liu, okay. Yeah, no, you should still be writing, you should still be copying it down, because if you're just listening, you won't actually be able to test it out for yourself. And coding is something where knowing the theory behind everything is just a little part of it. So if you're not writing it down, it's not going to help you that much, right? You're not going to learn how to drive a car just by listening to someone else tell you how to drive a car, right? There's sometimes you actually have to, try it yourself. And if you don't try yourself, then well, how do you know if you actually know how to drive a car, right? How do you know if you know how to code if you don't code, right? If you just listen, right? It's kind of hard to apply what you learn. So I'd say you should be writing it down, okay? And one of the ways you can do that is through assignment I'll give you guys after this, alright? Okay, Astar. Alright, yeah, no problem. If you don't want to write it down, you don't have to, but it's just that it would be best if you do write it down. That way you can, practice coding first of all. I mean, if you already know how to code quite well and you're not a beginner, then yeah, no need to write this down. But if this is all new stuff to you, I recommend you write it down, just so you get into the habit of that, okay? Again, you don't have to, right? But it's something I highly suggest you do. If you like want to make progress quicker, you'll be able to learn a lot faster and code a lot better if you like listen and write it down at the same time. All right. But if you like, no problem if you just want to just listen. That's also fine too. All right. So Ali is done. That's good. So if anyone else is done, please type it in the chat. So, alright, in the meantime, I'll basically go over these methods a bit more. What I have here is this is a setter method. So with a setter method doesn't actually create anything new or return a value. What it actually does is it just changes an already existing value, because we already have our distance, right? If we're going forward, we don't have to return anything new, we just have to change the distance we are at, and also the fuel, because whenever a car moves, it's using fuel. So these right here are setter methods. So with a setter method, just use void, because you're not actually returning a value. Alright, Tinkle Finko is done, that's good. I'll give you everyone 3 more minutes. And after that, I'll continue. Yeah. Right, remember, if you have any questions, type in the chat. If you have any questions or problems with your code, type it in the chat, so that way I can help you. Right, so Yeah, it looks like Tinkle Finkle and Ali are pretty good. So 2 more minutes tops, and then I have to keep going. Then I'm actually going to show you guys what the method does. Alright. 48, 2 more minutes. How come some of the messages take about a minute until they pop up on your screen? Yeah, so with me, my messages are a bit delayed for some reason. So I don't know. That's something that YouTube could work on in the future. So yeah, whenever I really receive these messages, they're like they're a little bit late. But right. So if you're done writing all the constructors and methods and attributes, let me know and I will start on the next part because I want to get through a little bit more stuff before we end today. Yeah, there is some delay. Yeah, delay. Yeah, so just type when you're done in the chat. That way I can know that you understand it and I will proceed. Mm. Alright, so it's 5:15 now. I'm going to keep going. If you want to get a code for this, I can send it to you privately. But yeah, I'll keep going for now. So let's actually test out our car now. So we've created the parameters for it. And now we're going to test it out to see if it works. So first, let's print out the speed of our car. Car.speed. Get rid of this. Alright, sorry. Rapol is so slow. Rectangle. Oh, I forgot the semicolon here. Error car and apply to the given types. Oh, so it required a string int string int, so I forgot to give it another value, so I'll just give it a value of 6. Okay. And this will work, yeah. It didn't follow the parameters exactly, so it didn't know how to create the car, but now it should. Alright, so now we can see that our speed is 6. Right, so now let's try to make the car go forward. So say my car go forward, and we'll go forward 10. So we'll print out the distance to check the distance of the car. See, we started at 0 and then we added 10 to the distance. And so that's how you go forward. Alright, so now let's actually put this into something. What I'm going to do is create a little text-based game in here. in this main file. And so what I'll say is the print line wait, I have to import the scanner object first. So what I'll do is import java.util.scanner. Then I'll be able to create a scanner. So okay, so we'll print out would you like to play? And so we'll take the user input string input is equal to next line. Pause. Yes, then we'll say while true. We'll say system line. So I'll say what would you like to do? What would you like to do? So we'll give the options go forward, go forward, backwards, or check field. And so that will give us the options. It will give us those three options. And so if we type in scanner, so we'll take in another input. So input is equal to scan next line. If input dot equals go forwards, system dot out dot print line, how far forward would you like to go? And so we'll say is equal to scan dot next int. And so we'll say my car dot go forward, and then we'll take in that input. And so we'll just copy and paste this for our backwards part. So if it says go backwards, how far backwards would we like to go? And so then after we go forward or backwards, we'll print out the distance. Distance. String can, oh, let's create a new variable then. So int L, okay, we'll say int num, and we'll say that num is equal to this, because I created the variable input, but I declared it as a string, so you can't turn it into an integer. That'll work though. Oh, forgot to change this to num and this to num. Alright, let's try it out now. Yeah, so I do recommend you guys copy all of this down. So, yeah, so it's gonna ask us, would you like to play? And let's say yes. Okay, so if we say yes, oh, we'll say yes, yes. Gosh. Oh, let's restart. Yeah, 5, 4. So would you like to play? Yes, I would like to play. What would you like to do? Go forwards, go backwards, or check field? Well, I want to go forwards. How far forwards would you like to go? I want to go forward 5. Now our distance is 15 because if you saw here, we already told our car to go forward 10. Now we're making it go forward 5 again. So now the distance is 15. And now let's say I messed up on here. We need to use the backwards method we defined. So this is the little game I made in here. Obviously it has no graphics, so it sucks, but you get the point of how you can use methods on objects. So let's say if our input dot equals check field, we'll say system.out.println. Let's say the field is, and then add the field. So my car dot field. Okay. Alright. If you guys have any questions at any time about the code, just let me know. Go backward now. Let me check my class. Oh, backwards. There's an S here. Okay. Because I didn't call my method by the right name, so I didn't know what to do. So would you like to play? I'll say yes, I would like to play. I know I spelled yes backwards. It's just that I'm too lazy to change this to a regular yes. Would you like to go? I'll say go backwards. How far backwards would you like to go? I want to go backwards 100. So now we can see that we're at negative 90 now. So would you like to go forwards, go backwards, or check field? I want to check my field. My field is at negative 107. Oh, that's not good. In that case, what I should do, because cars cannot drive after their fuel is past 0, right? So we should say that if fuel is smaller than or equal to 0, then we should brake. And then you are out of fuel. mycar.exe. No, this is mycar.java. Right. Let's start. Sorry, not fuel. It's mycar.fuel. Now work. Would you like to play? Yes. Oh, and I'm out of fuel. Nice, because my fuel is 0. Alright. Yeah, and so in the meantime, what we could also do is, in addition to like just these methods, we could like have a method called void uh increased fuel, which would basically like add fuel to our tank, right? And we could add that and then implement it into our gate into this, right? But yeah, I think you guys get the idea of methods, right? So we could make the car go forward with this method. We could make it go backwards, and when it went forwards or backwards, we would consume fuel and increase the distance of which we were like from the origin point, from the starting point. So that basically sums it up from today's class. Just to reiterate, today we talked about what classes were and what objects were. We talked about like creating attributes inside the classes, creating struct constructors, which create the objects. We also talked about different methods that can alter or return values. Also, right, for instance, we have this method here, which doesn't actually return anything. It just changes the distance and the field. And so that's what we did in the car class. We also created the rectangle class, and in the rectangle class, we could create a method that will give us the area and give us the perimeter of our rectangle. And so if you guys didn't copy this down, I recommend you rewatch the stream to just get everything down. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But before you leave, I'm going to leave you guys with an assignment. And that assignment is to create an airplane class, okay? So, the assignment is to create an airplane class. And I'll write it into the chat right now. That holds attributes of an airplane. Send the code to so just send it to this email. So yeah, your assignment is to, as we did here, we created a rectangle class and a car class. Well, now I want you guys to create an airplane class, which will basically like simulate what the attributes of an airplane, okay? So that will be your assignment for this week, and I want you guys to send it to this email, sean@youthcomputing.com, alright? Or if this email doesn't work, try sending it to seanj1019@gmail.com too. So does class end here? Yeah, class ends around here. So yeah, just complete the assignment and send it to either sean@youthcomputing.com or seanj1019@gmail.com. And yeah, once you guys finish with that assignment, please take a picture of it or like just copy and paste the code to me so I can see that you guys did it and I can see that you guys understood. Alright? But if you don't, I'll just automatically assume that you guys understood. So it's important that you guys give me some feedback on to like how well you guys are doing. Alright? Alright, so yeah, that's basically the end of class and I will see you guys next week. If you have any questions, I'll create a Google Meet right now. Yeah, but if you don't have any questions, you're free to leave. Yeah, so I'll post a link to that right now. Yeah, so just enter here if you have any questions. If not, then you guys can leave, and I'll see you next week. Yeah, also don't forget to complete the assignment. The assignment is very important. Alright, thank you everyone. Goodbye.